Okay. We're on the book of Ruth. We'd like to start evening, everyone. The book of Ruth, chapter 1, we're on verse 16. Just to recall that Naomi is returning home after she lost her husband and her 2 sons in the fields of Moab, and her two daughters-in-law are escorting her, Orpah and Ruth. Naomi tells them, listen, maybe you shouldn't come with me. Go back home to your lifestyle, to your gods. And after the conversation, Orpah decided to go back to Moab, and she left her mother-in-law and Ruth. However, like it says in the end of verse 14, it says Ruth Dafkaba. But Ruth was very committed. Ruth clung to Naomi, and she wanted to return with her and eventually to convert. Okay, it was verse 16. But Tomer Ruth, and Ruth said, "Al tifgi be lo azveich l'shu b'charoyach." Do not urge me to leave you, to turn back. And she says the following: Ki al asher telechi elech, wherever you will go, I will go. Asher tolini olni, wherever you will lodge, I will lodge. Amechami v'lokayich elokoi. The very famous verses. Your nation is my nation. Your God is my God. There's a lot of talk about this among our sages. That when Ruth was saying it, she had other things in mind. Let me give this as an example. She said, wherever you will go, I will go. Okay, so the message is the following. When Naomi came to Shom and Nami, when Naomi heard that that Ruth made her decision that she wanted to convert and embrace Judaism, it's she must have reviewed with her some of the rules and regulations. I'm sure Ruth knew some of them. She was in the house for 10 years. And she said the following, and Naomi said the following to her: Piti, my daughter, ain't darken shall be a store lechas lebote tiatraot or lebote karkotos. She said there's not the custom of the daughters of Israel to attend certain arenas where certain sports were being was taking place. And when they don't mean the sports that we have, that type of sports was like a human being was thrown to the beasts, and things like that. The Romans did the same. So Naomi said, even though maybe it's acceptable in Moab and other places, that's not considered entertainment by us. And the Bnot Israel, a Jewish girl, does not attend such places, such arenas. Okay, and so Naomi, Ruth responded, "El asher telchi elech, wherever you will go, I will go." Okay, then she thought of something about Shabbos, which relates to distance. Well, what do you know? What halacha do you know concerning distance on Shabbat, that you're not permitted to work beyond a certain distance?
You can't go more than 2,000 something, and you can't go over a bridge.
Right. It's a cubit. It's called Chum Shabbat, a Sabbath boundary. You're not permitted to walk beyond 2,000 cubits, which is about approximately 4,000 feet, beyond the city limits. So that was a special ruling. So again, Ruth said, of course, I will accept that. Wherever you will go, I will go. That's known as the Chum Shabbat. Okay. Then she said, wherever you will lodge, I will lodge. Okay, so Omra law. Naomi said to the Midrash now. Naomi said to Ruth, Osur law yichud. We don't permit a woman who's not married to be alone with another man. Amrullah, Bashet Olini Olin. Wherever you will lodge, I will lodge. Or she said to her, a simpler rule. Well, no. Amrullah, Naomi said to her, BT ain't you know, our custom is that you cannot live in a home if you don't have a mezuzah on the door. So again, however you live, I will live. You put a mezuzah on the door, I certainly will have a mezuzah on the door. Amech Ami, your nation is my nation. Amra, she said, well, then she just gave just a general statement. This I think last time. She said, you know, we are obligated to perform 613 mitzvot. Amrullah, Amech Ami. Nation is my nation. And then I'll definitely abide by all the mitzvot. Shub Amrullah Aslan about the Chabim Amrullah. And she said, you know, maybe she was well aware of it, but she reiterated this to Ruth. Remember, we do not accept pagan gods. And that's not part of our belief. So she said, your God is my God. So there's just some of the things she might have discussed with Ruth as they were walking towards Eretz Israel. And all these points that she said, Ruth says, of course, I will abide by all these rules. And according to the opinions that she didn't really convert in Moab, it was very important. Now she went over the certain important points that she was aware of it. And then later on, as she will get to Eretz Israel, she will have a complete conversion. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Now we go to the next verse, verse 17. She continues. Naomi's book is still continuing. Bashet Musi Amus. Wherever you will die, I will die. Okay. Now it doesn't mean simply, well, if you're going to die in Israel, I'll accept that point that I'll die there too. Doesn't mean that. The way the Medrash learns it, Portugal law are about misos basins. You know, in our court, at least when the Sanhedrin was functioning, there were 4 death penalties given out to those who transgressed various. Yes, I mean nowadays they don't do this type of penalties today, but in those days that was done skila, stoning, treifa, and even the stone doesn't mean just to throw stones at the person. It meant that according to the Gemara Sanhedrin, a person was put on let's say like the second story of a house and was thrown down onto the ground on a stone floor, stone ground. That was considered the stoning. Straight for they used to pour down hot lead down a person's throat for certain transgressions, or beheading, or strangle the person. Okay, these were 4 types of death penalties that if under certain conditions were issued out by the Sanhedrin for certain transgressions. So again, Ruth said, wherever you'll die, I'll accept that too. By the way, even though they had 4 different punishments, death penalties, as to say it in the Sanhedrin, if a court ever issued a death penalty once in 7 years, or some say once in 20 years, it was considered a murderous court. Because very seldom did they ever actually issue a death penalty. So, but anyway, if it was done, that she would accept that particular thing too. No. Oh yeah. And then she says, there I'll be buried. Not just referring to simply that she should be buried. Of course, it could be also saying that what do you call it? Okay. He's also referring to like there was different cemeteries for those who had a very strict punishment, let's say the stoning or burning, they would be buried in one particular cemetery, and for ones who would be punished with beheading or strangulation, there was a different cemetery. That was what was done in those days, and she said, of course, whatever, I'll accept that too. Or something better. She said that Naomi must have told him, but of course, the other side, if one observes all the mitzvahs of the Torah, one will be rewarded. And she's l'shalim schar pulosi, to go ahead and be rewarded with whatever the reward is in the next world, the eternal world. Okay. Okay. Yeah. But now she says, so shall God do to me, and even more. Usually that's an expression of taking an oath. So it swore. The only thing that will separate you and I, meaning herself and Naomi, is only death. That's what will separate us. Okay, so we see that Ruth was willing to accept the entire, all the mitzvahs, everything that Naomi told her. Okay, and Naomi, when she was speaking to her, and she saw that Ruth was so serious about converting. Then it says, but in verse 18 it says, "But Teda kimis ametzes hilulechas ita." When she saw, Naomi saw that she was that Ruth was really very serious about conversion, and she wants to go with Naomi to Israel. But then she stopped speaking to her about that. She saw this her conviction, and that she was really truly wanted to convert to a Torah way of life. And look what the next verse says, verse 19. But they both of them walked together. When until they came to the city of Beit Lachem. So the Medrash says an interesting point. Omer Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon. Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon said the following: Bore, come and say, Kama chavivim hageref me'akadosh baruch hu. How beloved converts are before God. Shekebo and shenosna Ruth dato litgayer. Once Ruth was expressed her desire very, very positively and seriously to convert, then Ruth was on equal status as Naomi. Because what does it say? But both of them, as they were equals. Both of them went back to Beit Lechem. So a convert who was very serious and wants to convert and accept all the mitzvahs, once they do that, they're on equal standing as any other Jew. Okay. See? Okay. Let's go further. But again, verse 19. But both of them went together, equal status. Until they came to Beis Lechem. Vayhi kivo'ona Beis Lechem, and it was when they came to Beit Lechem. But the home called Ir Alehem, and all the city was astonished seeing her, really seeing them. But really, most probably meant this Naomi. But Tomarna Hazos Naomi, they said, "Is this Naomi?" By the way, what were all the city doing outside? Just to that they saw them coming. Like it says, the whole city was there. I mean, the large population of the city was there when the time when Ruth and Naomi were coming back. What was going on? There was a certain event that took place that the book of Ruth does not tell us. That all the people were outside, on the outskirts of the city.
It was the funeral for Boaz's wife.
That's right. Boaz lost his wife, and so Boaz was one of the judges in the book of Judges known as Ifsan. He was one of the judges of Israel, a prominent person, and the funeral, the cemetery must have been on the outskirts of the city, so the whole city, large population of the city, escorted Boaz, and when they buried his wife, his first wife, Boaz. But you see through here that divine supervision. Here, Naomi and Ruth are coming back. Boaz's wife died. So she's being buried, and through divine supervision, Boaz's second wife is coming, which eventually happened when he marries Ruth. So one leaves and one comes. Okay, so they were saying, is this Naomi? Now, they were shocked to see her. First of all, Naomi, if you remember, how did she leave? When she left the city of Naomi, Beis Lechem, she left with wagons and coaches, whatever they had in those days. And she had, I suppose, a husband and the two sons, and she had a lot of properties. They were very affluent. And here she's coming back. She's coming back just walking. She's not even riding on a wagon or something this long distance. And she's arriving here at Beis Lechem. So they really said, "Was this Naomi?" We're really shocked to see Naomi. That there's a real change in her. She's not that affluent person who left. She's coming back on foot, and she didn't have a wagon or something to travel on. Because that's why they said, "Is really this Naomi?" It's hard to believe this. And I can understand why Naomi responds the way she does. And she says, "Vatomer alehen," and Naomi responds to them, "Al tikrena Naomi. Don't call me Naomi." Remember, what does Naomi mean? What does Noah mean? No.
Pleasant.
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 Yeah, right. Pleasant person. A happy person. Don't call me Naomi because I'm not so happy or delighted. I'm feeling good to when I left Beis Lechem. Readily Mora. What is Mora? What does Mar mean? Mar.
Bitter.
What?
Bitter.
Bitter. I'm bitter. I am embittered. Over these 10 years, a lot of unfortunate things have happened to me. I lost my husband. I lost my two sons. So don't call me Naomi. I'm not so pleasant and happy-go-lucky that maybe when I left, and now when I'm returning, currently more. Call me Moror. I now feel bitter. I feel embittered. Because the Almighty has embittered my life. She admits at this point, or maybe otherwise she left Moab, that she realized at the hand of God, because she left with her husband 10 years before, because of the hunger and the famine, and she went to Moab, and she had lost her husband and her two sons. She realized that, but the thing is, he let her live. So she realized also there must be something coming up. I'm embittered now. I had terrible losses, but sometimes you go through difficult times, and maybe I'll be able to be as happy as I was before. Eventually happened, I suppose. Okay. He even mentions that. When I left, I was full. What does it mean? When I left, I was full when I went away. Meaning what I just said, that she had a large amount of goods, property. And some even say, interesting what the Midrash says. Some maintain, that should have been a much earlier time, 10 years before, she was still able to have children. That when she says, when I left, I was full, she meant I was pregnant. When I left, I was pregnant, and most probably she lost that child. Or, as we mentioned before, she had sons and a husband when she left, and now she doesn't have that anymore. So she said, when I left you, I was full. the great come Heshivani Hashem. Now I return empty-handed. Almost incredibly Nami. Why are you calling me Nami? I'm very pleasant. No. Hashem Anabi Bashad Herali. She realizes that God has brought misfortune upon her, and she's all alone. Okay. But then the chapter concludes. But Tosha of Naomi returns. Ruth Hamobiah Alasah Ima, and Ruth Hamobiah. Interesting. Ruth Hamobiah, her daughter-in-law, came with her. Hashava Mistei Moab, who returned from the fields of Moab. Vehema Bo Beis Lechem, and they have arrived at Beis Lechem. Chilas Ketzir Saorim, at the beginning of the barley harvest. So if it was the beginning of the barley harvest, what time of year did they come back?
Right after Pesach.
Shavuos.
No, not Shavuos.
No, Pesach. At the end of Pesach.
Remember, if it's barley ripens first in Israel before.
It's the Omer, right?
Yeah. That's when the Omer. When you offer the barley offering, you are permitted to eat from the new what do you call it? The new harvest. So they were arriving at that point at the beginning of the harvest of barley, and the Medrash brings down, whenever you find in the Tanakh the harvesting of barley, it's talking about the harvesting of the barley, of the Omer. Yeah. So if that's the case, most probably it must have been Cholamoid, maybe something that they were coming, because the burial would not take place in Yom Tov, because it must have been the second day, or I should say the second day, which is like the first day of Cholamoid. It must have been coming arriving at Beis Lechem at that time of year, the harvesting of barley. Yeah. Okay, now. Yeah. Now, so the second chapter. And Naomi had a relative related to her husband, Ishki Borchayo, who was a man of, not just, usually Borchayo means a warrior, but in this case, I suppose means a man of wealth. He happened to be from the family of Elimelech. And who was Elimelech?
A husband.
Naomi's husband, right. Uchmo Boaz, and his name was Boaz. By the way, I think I mentioned that Boaz had another name, and he's known as Iftzan. According to our sages, he was a judge, Iftzan. That's well known at that time. Now, when it says, and his name was Boaz, you know that he must have been a tzaddik. Because many times when the Tanakh will tell us a name of a certain person, they always say the name first, and then, like for example, they'll say Goliath Shemo. We're talking about Goliath later on with the incident with David and Goliath. It says the Goliath was his name. Whenever it says name first and say his name, it doesn't say his name is Goliath, but it says Goliath is his name. You know that he's not a good person. Or there was a person, Novel Shemo. Novel was also not a very nice person. And again, it says Novel was his name, and so on. But when it comes to a righteous person, like over here, it says Shmo Boaz. His name was Boaz. Or later on, when it talks about Shaul, or Shaul's father, Saul's father, it says Ushmo Kish. His name was Kish, so you know he's a good fellow. Ushmo Shaul. His name was Shaul. Or we have it in the Megillah Esther, Ushmo Mordechai. His name is Mordechai, and so on. So same thing. Oh, Shmuel Elkanah. His name is Elkanah. That was Shmuel's father. Samuel's father. So anyway, so that's the basic rule. It says like over here, and Shmuel Boaz. His name is Boaz. Is what his name first. His name is Boaz. We know we are talking about a righteous individual. And even God Himself talks about Himself. Talks about His name. Even when God met Moshe at the burning bush, He says over there again, "Ushmi Hashem," my name Hashem. I never revealed it to our Mr. Yaakov what that all meant. So again, so whenever you see his name is so and so, that means it's a righteous individual. The opposite, it says the name, and then says like God Yashmo, God is his name. You know, we're talking about a Rasha, an evil individual. That's a basic rule.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a different question. In
Okay.
Hallel.
Yeah.
Go on. I'll ask you later.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Where are we? Oh, verse 2. But Ruth Hamobia and Nami. And Ruth Hamobia said to Nami, and you have to remember, as we mentioned before, Ruth and Naomi came back. They really were impoverished. They didn't have hardly anything. But it's a time of barley harvest, or maybe other crops that were ready to be harvested. So you notice a mitzvah in the Torah that a person who doesn't have food can go in a field and take payah. What does payah mean? Payah.
The edges.
The edges, the corners of the edges. There was a halacha that when the farmer harvests his produce, he should leave the corners uncut. That was called payah. And who was the payah for? Those people who were impoverished and did not have anything to eat. Or during the time they actually harvesting, and let's say he's harvesting, the farmer is harvesting, or his workers are harvesting, and they're if one or two stalks as he's harvesting fall from his hand, that's left for the poor person. If it's more than two stalks, the farmer can still take it back. That's known as leket. And there's other things. If he was binding sheaves, and they used to take the sheaves in the field and it was to pile up somewhere. If a little small sheaf was left out, that's also the farmer should leave it for a poor person. These were the basic rules that were done. That's from the Torah. And since Naomi and Ruth came back in the time of right after the Pesach, and they didn't have anything or much to eat. So the mitzvah, they had a special mitzvah that, in this case, Ruth would go into the fields and collect either the payah, the corners of the field that were left uncut, or sheaves that were small sheaves, or stalks that fell from the hands of the harvesters, and that would be the way to be able to sustain the poor people and to be able to survive. Okay, so that's why Ruth, the Moabite, Moabia, said to Naomi,
They call her that if she converted.
What?
If she already converted, why do they call her that?
Well, I told you most say she did not convert. Well, anyway, maybe to tell us the important rule, like I mentioned before, that ruling that a Moabite woman was allowed to marry a Jewish man was unknown, was not circulated. They didn't know that. Later on, it had to be circulated. In fact, Boaz, when he finally marries her, you can see he wants a million of people. He wants a group of people present. And they must have discussed that thing because people did not know that particular ruling. I don't know why. That was one ruling that was not known by the masses. And that's why I mentioned.
This isn't even about marrying. If she just converted, right? Not even about marrying. Why do they call her a Moabite?
Well, maybe she, according to many, she did not convert yet. She wants to convert. She didn't convert yet. It wouldn't be to chapter 4 when we see that she actually converts. So she's a Moabite who wants to embrace Judaism, but not have a full conversion. Okay. Well, anyway, so Ruth Amovias says to Naomi, I will go into one of the fields, and I will glean among the grain. Behind someone that I find favor in his eyes. But Tomalo said, go ahead, go my daughter, go ahead. Now, Ruth was a smart woman. She understood that perhaps because she's a Moabite woman, she might be chased out of the farm or the place where they're harvesting. It's because maybe because she didn't look Jewish, maybe they felt that she has no right to take from that particular field. Who knows? So that was what she wanted to go to the field. She mentions I want to go out to the field behind someone whose eyes I shall find favor, that they'll accept me the way I am. So you see, even just like today or throughout the history, there's discrimination. She was afraid that maybe because she had a darker complexion, they would not permit her to go ahead and collect from the fields. Really, that was one of her concerns. So that's what she tells her: I have to go to a field that they'll accept me. I'll find favor in the eyes of the farmer or head or whatever the head man was, the head officer there during the time of harvesting. And remember, the last time I did say that was one of the reasons why Naomi told Ruth and Orpah originally go back home, because in a way maybe she had some shame to bring back a Moabite woman. That's another commentator mentions that. Maybe she felt funny by doing that. But anyway, so same thing. Ruth understood that because maybe she has a darker complexion, they will not go ahead and accept her and glean in the particular field. So that's why she says, to the person whom I shall find favor. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see where to go further. And then Naomi says, go right ahead. She went, and then she came, and she gleaned in a field. Acharei goes behind harvesters. Okay. That says, faith habit of divinely inspired that this should happen, that she happened to be accepted in the field that Boaz owned. And Boaz was related to the family of Elimelech. Okay. Verse 4. Boaz bore me Beit Lechem. We find that Boaz comes from Beit Lechem, and he's going into his field now. And he said to the harvesters, is God with you? And they said to him, God shall bless you. Well, here's an interesting thing. Today, if somebody asks you how do you feel, you say Baruch Hashem. Thank God. Blessed is God that I feel okay. Notice Boaz doesn't. When Boaz asks the question to the harvesters, is God with you? They don't say Baruch Hashem. They say Baruch Hashem. Hashem should bless you. So it seems like the original response when somebody says, how you feeling, or is everything okay? You didn't say Baruch Hashem. You blessed the person who was asking. You say Baruch Hashem. God should bless you. That was the response. So we do learn from this particular verse that you should say Baruch Hashem, but the wording changed a bit. Instead of saying Baruch Hashem, blessed is God, instead of saying what it mentions over here in Ruth, where you say you shall be blessed, God bless you. In fact, in English you say God bless you, right? That was a response that they said in the time of Boaz. He asked the harvesters, how are you? They said, God bless you. But it changed, and we say Baruch Hashem. Yeah. But it's interesting to note that this is the source for that response.
Maybe it refers to that he was such a wonderful man that his harvesters liked him so much.
Yeah, okay. But they could have answered Baruch Hashem, right? Didn't see they said, you shall be blessed. Well, But because we do point out someplace. One of the commentators point out that it had changed. In those days, you said to the person who asked you how you are, you bless the person who asked. Later, it changes to say Baruch Hashem, God is with me. Thank blessed is God. He mentioned that the change took place, which happens many times. Bayoma Boaz Lenaro, and the Boaz said to one of the men, one of his workers, and he saw Kosim was standing by the harvesters. Who's this young girl over here? Who's this girl? Who's this woman? So some of the commentators say, why did Boaz mention who's this girl? Not only because she saw that she's the complexion might have been a little darker, but there was another reason. She seemed to know. She was very modest how she used to go ahead and collect the whatever it was, the stalks that fell down. She didn't bow, but she bent her knees. She kneeled when she took it. So she was very modest how she collected the stalks. So that also was Boaz noticed it, and he was very interested. That's why he inquired, who's this girl? Who is this girl? Because he knew something very special about her. And also, he noticed, says our rabbis, he noticed that if there was 3 stalks, she would never take it. There would be 2 stalks, she would. So somehow, Nami had told her that she knew the halachos, these rulings are concerning what she can take and what she cannot take. Maybe a lot of the harvesters, if it's 3 stalks, they took it anyway. But she would not. She would only take maybe 2, or 1 or 2, and not 3. And so he saw something very special about this girl, eventually who was Ruth. Okay, that's why in the verse of 5 again, by Yom Boaz Naro, and Boaz said to the young men, Hanitzava who were supervising the harvesters and all the Lemia Naro says, who is this girl? Okay. Vayan Hanar Hanitzav Alakotzrim, and the supervisor was overseeing the harvesters. Yoman said, notice what he says right away. Narua Moab Yohi. She's a Moabite girl. Hashava Imnami Mistay Moab. But she's very special. You know who she came back with? She came back with a relative of yours, Naomi, in the field of Moab. Okay, so we see that Boaz realized something very special about her, how she collected the stalks and so on. So he was very impressed, but he didn't know who she was. So then the officer told him that this is Ruth, or the family who came back with Naomi, who was from the family of Bani Melech. Okay, and again, when you look in verse 6, it tells us because Ruth was concerned that maybe they wouldn't want her to come into that field because she's not a Yisraeli at that time. So Vayan Hanar, the boy told Boaz, and he saw Kotzim, who was the officer over the harvesters. Bayoman said, Nar Movia, she's a Moabite girl. Hashav im Nami Mistay Moab. She returned to Nami from the field of Moab. And verse 7, Vatomer Ikalakto Nov Misati Moarim Achrei Kotzrim. And this officer said, she asked permission. She says, may I go ahead and collect from the small sheaves or whatever it was she was collecting after the harvesters? I'll go after them, after the other people. And she came and she was there. It was a the whole day, from the morning till now. But for a while, after she worked very hard, she would go ahead and rest a little bit. And must be some sort of a tent or a hut that they had there that she was able to relax. So other than that, she was busy collecting the whatever was there at that particular field. Okay. Okay, let's stop over here, and we'll continue. Emiat Hashem next. Was it Tuesday, right? So okay, so have a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. This
Shabbat
week
shalom.
we have a Parshat Shmini. Important. This Shabbat we'll bless the new month of
Yeah.
Gosh, ready is Iyar. What is it? I think Rosh Chodesh is
Rosh Chodesh, Monday, Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday. Okay, good. The 2 days Chodesh.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
No, it's Monday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Monday to whatever it is.
I think. I just read it.
But anyways, Rosh Chodesh coming up, and good. It's 2-day Rosh Chodesh at a particular time. Parshat Shmini. Oh, important Parsha, and this that really relates to all of us. The rules of kashrut. This is the source for what's a kosher animal and what's not a kosher animal. So, what is the symbols of a kosher animal? It has 2 symbols.
Chooses curd and has hooves, cleaved
Split
hooves.
But it has to be totally split.
Right.
You know, a camel chews its cud, but
Right,
it
but
has
doesn't have-
split
right.
hoof, but it's not totally split. It has like some sort of on the bottom of his foot. It
Right.
connects the feet. So, but although at the top it's divided. The rabbit also I think has the same thing. So and there you see, not only can't you eat the meat, the same as a camel, but you're not allowed to have camel's milk. Same idea. Camel's not kosher. Any product that comes from it, in this case the milk, is not kosher. Although he chooses cut.
What about camel leather?
You could use that for coat, let's say. Yeah, that you're allowed to use. Yeah, you could. But you can't use it for, obviously, to eat. Whether, yeah. Okay. The pig is the only one that has split hoofs, but does not chew its cud. So that's the only one mentioned in the Torah. Okay, of course it's not kosher.
So this is my question.
Yeah.
Are you finished?
No, go ahead. Ask the question.
With halal, right? You say you're Yivarek, right? Right, but you don't say Yivarek Moshe.
No, whoever's saying over there, God, the Yivarek, he will bless, means God himself. God will bless Yivarek as based Aaron. He will bless the house of Aaron. It doesn't say.
No, it says Moshe. Right. Doesn't say Moshe.
Because Aaron, the reason why he uses Aaron over there was probably because he's a Kohen and he worked in the Beit HaMikdash. Moshe couldn't do that.
But it says David. But it says David.
Excuse me. He's what? I didn't hear what you said.
It says David.
Oh, because David is Malchut. That's kingship. So you have 2 important houses: the houses of Kohanim and the house of kings. So at Aaron, he was the father of the kahuna, of priesthood, and eventually David was the founder of Malchus Beis David, the kingdom of the house of David. Yeah, that's why most probably just mentions that. Right. Okay, let's go with the fish. What are the 2 symbols for a kosher fish?
Scales and fins.
Right, that's the scales and fins. Okay, when it comes to the other things, I think Yemenites Jews have a tradition. They know what kosher, what locusts are kosher, what are not. But we don't. The Ashkenazi community never eats any locusts.
So you can't eat a bird that walks on four legs.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
Or that, right? It doesn't have a hinge.
Right. All these insects you can't eat and all this stuff. The problem is when you do the Pasha Shemini, when they mention names of animals, we don't know how to identify all of them. We really don't. There's also one that's Zemer. Zemer it's called. Many think it's a giraffe. By the way, the giraffe is kosher.
It's kosher.
It has split hoofs and it does chew its cud. So why can't we eat it? You never heard of any kosher giraffe meat?
They can't cut it.
Huh?
You don't know where to do the shechita because the neck is so
We
big.
don't know which part of it has such a long neck. Problem is we don't know at what point you shech the giraffe. That's why we don't have any kosher giraffe. We don't need any giraffe.
That's terrible to eat a giraffe.
I don't know. I never ate it, so I don't know how it tastes. And also, Deer, by the way, deer is kosher, but the problem is hard to get it, to capture it, to
That's
hold
kosher.
it down. That's sometimes, occasionally, they have deer meat. I don't know how to get that, but every so often I see someone is advertising that they have kosher deer meat. I don't know how to do that, but it is a
Kosher
kosher
what?
animal. A deer is kosher.
Kosher what?
An animal, deer, a deer. It's
Deer.
kosher. Yeah.
Deer? Oh,
Or buffalo.
Okay. Have a good Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. And feel
Shabbat
better.
shalom.
We'll meet again on Tuesday at 12:30. Isn't it Tuesday at 12:30?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.